OK, we're going to rattle through the back end of this show. 'Tis the season to strike, apparently. That's the latest bout of industrial action that's been announced over the festive period. Well, it shouldn't really be called the festive period, should it, if it's been ruined? But anyway, earlier it was announced that ambulance workers will go ahead with strikes on December the 21st and the 28th. We can add that to the posties, we can add that to the nurses. It comes amid the RMT's rejection of the most recent pay offer. This is, of course, on the railways. The government said its focus remains on mitigating the impact of strike action on the public as they've been training troops to firefight and drive ambulances. Hopefully they can drive trains as well as part of preparations for mass worker walkouts ahead. Well, the RMT, this is the McGuinness Brigade, they've claimed to have a mandate for their action, which has aggravated members of the public. Involved in a spat with the Rail Workers Union earlier today, Ed McGuinness, ex-British Army officer and president of the Conservatives in the City, argued that the tyranny of the unions was unwarranted, as the government also has a mandate to act. I'm very pleased to say he joins me now. Thank you very much. Welcome to the studio. Great to have you on. Now, Mick Lynch says that he's got a mandate, presumably from his members, that would be in order to go on strike. Does he?
No, I would suggest that the 35,000 members that he claims voted for the strike action are far outweighed by the 14.1 million people that voted for the Conservative Party to give rail workers a fair pay deal but not have them disrupt the lives of ordinary working people.
Do you think that if it's the taxpayer paying, potentially, for pay rises for some of these people, the taxpayer should get a vote on what that pay rise is?
No, I feel that there's a negotiation process in place, but that negotiation has to be held in good faith. And when you're negotiating with a party who, when offered a pay deal of 8% plus no redundancies for 2 years, turns around and says, no, we don't want this pay deal, we're actually going to implement more strikes that will disrupt people's lives even further over the Christmas period. The first one that we've actually had post-COVID, stopping people being able to go and see their families, stopping people being able to go to work, essential workers being able to go to work.
Yeah.
I think that you can't negotiate with a gun held to your head.
No, and I think it's important to stress the massive, massive differences between the different people who are striking. Nurses, ambulance workers, paramedics, emergency care workers, 999 call workers, etc. If they go on strike, then there is a much wider impact, potentially, to public health and safety. You would hope so, otherwise they weren't doing their job particularly well to begin with. And there are more moral consequences with that. But with the healthcare strikes, there are also different issues, because those people apparently are struggling with recruitment and retention in a way that, as I understand it, does not exist when it comes to the rail workers. So actually, do you think that out of all of the people striking, the rail workers have the least mandate to strike in the public eye? Because supposedly they can already fill the jobs anyway. People are queuing up to work for them.
I would tend to agree with you that there is a spectrum of need and of strike action and where the legitimacy lies. And what I would say is that this is more about a negotiating mandate and is more about being able to negotiate in good faith. There are militant unions, such as the RMT, that don't negotiate in good faith, clearly, but I think some of the other unions, some of the more sensible ones, are up for that challenge.
There is the argument that Mick Lynch is just doing his job. So Mick Lynch is essentially tasked with getting the best deal he possibly can for the people who he represents, and he is doing that job to the best of his abilities right now by bringing it right to the wire. And has the situation changed with this cost of living crisis and inflation at unprecedented levels?
Well, clearly the situation has changed, and the government and the operating companies for the rail operating group have recognised that change. They have put an offer to the RMT of 8% over 2 years with no redundancies before 2024, with some reforms baked into that. That is a starting point for negotiation. It is not a starting point to escalate your strike action around a time when people want to...
Do you think Mick Lynch is absolutely loving this?
I think it's more about the Mick Lynch than it is about aiding his hard-working trade union members, yes.
Do you think this is an eco trip by Mick Lynch?
I do. I think as the strikes have escalated and carried on, he has become really the face of this rather than his hard-working union members.
All right, look, thank you very much. Great to have you in the studio, and thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. That's Ed McGuinness there, ex-British Army officer and president of the Conservatives in the City, who got into a bit of a spat with the RMT, and there you go. Anyway, right, turning now to that trailer for the highly anticipated Netflix